What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Talking Dogs Podcast. I hope you guys all have been enjoying the content that I have gotten out. Things are getting a little rough around here for time crunches and things like that, but I'm going to still keep cranking out these videos for you guys. I told you in the last one there'd be a podcast next. Haven't got a podcast out in over 2 weeks, so I think it'd be a good time to sit down and crank out a podcast for y'all. In this podcast, I kind of just gonna free ball it, go with the flow of things and see where it takes us, see where we end up. Um, I want to kind of start at dog food. I kind of have a little bit of a channel deal here. So I reached out to Inukshuk Dog Food, which the ingredients on their dog food is something to be reckoned with. I mean, it is great dog food. There's no doubt about it. Just look at the ingredient list of that dog food. And how I found out about this dog food is actually through watching Stark Outdoors. He has this in the beginning part of his videos. And so I reached out to him after I looked into it. That dog food is some phenomenal dog food. That's a huge up. That's a huge plus. It is on a little bit more of the expensive side as far as dog food goes, but it is high quality feed, man. And they have like 35-25 or stuff like that, 32-22. So we're looking at way over 30-20 that you get in other places in the market. And they have all fish options. So there's some really great dog food. So let's just start there at dog food and selecting dog feed. Ingredient list wise, if our dog feed is starting with cornmeal, it is probably not the best dog food in the world. Some of them are better than others, but when we check in nutrition facts and we check the back of the bag and read ingredients, if it's starting off with cornmeal, it is probably a mid to low level dog food brand or feed, because cornmeal is a filler in the dog food, right? So when we're reading ingredients labels, we want to look for different things like meat, right? So we're looking for meat meal or chicken meal or beef meal, things like that to start off our ingredients list. And the more better ingredients that you read, the more things that you understand on that bag. Oh, this bag has herring fish. This bag has brown rice. This bag has white rice. This bag has blueberries. Things like that are going to be the better quality dog foods. Now, not to say that we have to be careful that our dog doesn't have allergies to dog foods, right? There's a lot of options, and a lot of it is fish based. A lot of it is rice based, things like that, because some dogs are allergic to corn, right? So we have that whole idea floating around out there in the dog food world. Now, just because a bag of dog food is expensive doesn't mean that it is good dog food. And just because a bag of dog food is not expensive doesn't mean it's a bad bag of dog food, right? So we kind of just need to look and select what we need based on what we need. Okay, so I've talked about it. I've had the whole entire feed video. We have all these different protein to fat ratios for our hounds and for our dogs in general. Now, a higher protein and a higher fat content dog food is going to be better for a dog that is getting hunted, because it's going to have the fat to use to burn to make muscle. It's going to have the protein in there to help build that muscle and help recover from getting out there and doing work. And that is just basically how bodies work, right? So if we're selecting a good high quality feed, we're feeding a good diet, so we're having a good feed schedule. We can have a hound in tip top shape in a matter of weeks, right? So we can have a hound ready to hit the woods. And there's a lot of different information out there that we can go check and we can go find and see what a fit hound is going to look like. One that I would direct you to that you can do is you can go watch the Bandit Slam video that Stark Outdoors posted, and you can see he does like a one-on-one interview with all the guys and shows their dogs. Those dogs are fit, those dogs are athletic, those dogs are in shape, and those dogs are ready to do work, right? For the most part, that's what you see. And for the most part, that's what we want to see on our hounds. Now, some hounds are going to be a little bit more big bodied just naturally, but we need to trim them up. We need to trim them up. We need to trim the fat off them, and we need to get that energy level up and that energy level high. And I think we can miss the ticket on how our dog performs by feeding incorrectly or feeding bad dog food. Um, because all in all, it goes a huge way. It goes a huge way to pick a good dog food, to feed a good dog food, and to feed it correctly. And the performance of that alone is going to net you the best results that you can get netted. Now, that's not to mention or talk about supplements that we can add to our feed, which I haven't gotten into that a whole lot, and I haven't looked into that a whole lot. And but these guys that are taking this stuff ultra serious, these guys that are out here and putting in the work and hunting dogs and just really about it, they're feeding these supplements along with super high quality dog food, and they're getting top notch performance out of their dogs. And this right here is, it's kind of like you putting bad gas in a car, it's not going to run right. And it's the same thing with dog food, right? If we're putting bad dog food in our dog, it's probably not going to run so great. Or if we're putting really good gas in our car, it probably runs better. And same thing for the dogs, man. So all this stuff is just kind of like logical thinking. We're putting two and two together. I would recommend that you guys feeding Nook Shook, and that is nothing to do with them. I did reach out to them. They are going to send me some hats and stuff like that, and I am going to throw them in the intro video of the channel. But I did that just because when I read the ingredients on that bag of dog food, I was like, this is very good quality dog food. And not to mention the fact that a Nook Shook actually helps support hunts and sponsor hunts and things like that. And they have like a whole thing, and it's really awesome. I think it's really good dog food. Um, I haven't got to try it yet, but I will tell you, I know by the ingredient list that it's high quality, and just knowing what's out there and knowing different brands of dog food and things like that, it's great food, you guys. So I know that I let y'all know about the dog and hunt thing, to where Dog and Hunt is doing that huge sale, that huge giveaway. You guys got to check them out. Another great people, man. They sent over stuff for the channel, and it's just been awesome. I think the channel is really starting to kick into gear. It's finding its stride. I'm finding my stride on posting videos. I haven't been getting a lot out. I knew that I was going to cut back. I didn't know how much I was going to cut back. But my last video that I put up, I sat down for probably an hour just to come up with that idea for that video. And when I'm doing these videos, that's what it is. It's brainstorming prior to it. And I have to account for all the videos that I've already put out, and I have to account for all the videos that I haven't, all the videos that I want to, and all the videos that I think that you guys would enjoy more. And then I kind of arrive at an idea. Now, I got on such a spin and such a runoff over the past month of just cranking video after video after video, that I kind of got stalled for ideas there for a while. But that's where you guys come in. That's where you guys come in, man. If there's something on a video, on a channel that you guys want to see, if there's something in a podcast you guys want to hear, just let me know, and I will do it, man. It's nothing to me. Nothing's too small. Nothing's too big. There's some subjects that I do try to stay away from, just because I'm not that knowledgeable in them. But I will give you guys the information that I do have, or my understanding of that. So there's that whole kind of thing. What I wanted to do in this podcast too, and I've been wanting to kind of talk about this for a while. No, I'm not a big comp hunter guy. No, I haven't did a lot of comp hunting, and I have opinions about comp hunting and all this stuff. And if you watch my channel a lot, you can kind of get the picture or the idea that I'm not so on the side of these guys, but that's farther couldn't be farther from the truth. The comp hunting guys, they have it rougher than everybody, right? Because we have dogs that we have to stay on top of. We have dogs that we have to train, dogs that we have to maintain, and we have to go put them in hunts, and then it's hands off for real. And that could be a headache, right? Let's catch your dog on a bad night to where it might need some correcting in the woods, but it's in a comp hunt for a lot of money, and it starts doing this stuff. There's nothing that you could do about it. And at the end of the day, we have to have dogs that we can count on some level, right? And not every dog is going to perform every single time. Not every dog is going to go out and tree 9 coons. Not every single dog is going to do that every single night. And when we get a hold of a dog and we want to go and we want to start getting into the comp hunting world, there's a lot of things that we can look at, and there's a lot of reasons why we should. And I know I've had a couple times bad taste put in my mouth at the comp hunts, but I don't let that knock me. I don't knock the whole world of comp hunting for that, because I know there is good clubs. I know there is good guys out there that don't cause problems in cast, and I know there's guys out there just to run dogs, and it's about the dogs. It's not about playing the rules so much or getting another guy, whatever, and that whole kind of deal. We can take a dog and put it in a cast and see how it does. And if it does well, we can put it in another cast. And even if it does bad, that's the whole thing. Is it's just kind of luck of the draw, strike of the pot, patches of woods, dogs on different days. I mean, it's not really something that we can determine on any type of fashion of consistency, um, that is going to be definitive, right? So we can definitely get a dog that's pretty good at what it does and kind of count on it for that aspect. But as far as guaranteeing a dog to do something, that's never going to be happening, right? That's not going to happen in pleasure hunting. That's not going to happen in comp hunting. That's not going to happen on any sense of the world of coon hunting. There's no guarantees what a dog is going to do. You have a pretty good idea. You might have a pretty reliable dog, but at the end of the day, there's no guarantees, right? And so that brings me over to my next subject here, and that is, I've said it on the channel throughout, and I don't know how many videos that I've said this, is if we have a dog, a good dog for us, a dog that we like, it hunts the way that we like, and gets things done the way that we like them to get things done, we're going to have a lot better time in the woods, right? If we have a dog that is not doing anything that we think it's supposed to be doing, we're going to have an awful time in the woods. So it's not a big deal to shuffle through some dogs and find a dog that you enjoy. Find a dog that doesn't have so many qualities about it that you don't like, that you can't stand to even put it in the woods. But there's that kind of idea there too. And on a side note, we need to have a lot of room in that, right? We need to have a lot of room in the type of dog, in the style of dog that we're willing to accept, because at the end of the day, the more strict we are, the less dogs we have to pick from. And that just becomes more of a problem, and it's going to turn into a headache to where we're constantly going through dogs and constantly not getting what we want out of a dog and shipping it on down the road. Now, there's other reasons for this, and there's other reasons why this happens, but for the most part, as long as we're bettering a dog on some level, whether by getting it to an owner that's going to better it, or training on it and getting it better to make it more valuable. I talked about this a lot, is value. We have to add value to these dogs, and that is the main goal, especially if we're not going to keep on to them. The best thing that we can do for a dog is add value to it, and we can add value through a lot of different ways, and that is hunting more, getting more consistency out of a dog, and all this stuff. Now, there's a thing that I was talking about in my last video, and I was talking about stopping walk hunting. Now, I think I have a plethora of guys that hunt a lot of different ways that come in on the channel. I've tried asking. I don't know what you guys are at, what stage you guys are at. I know there's a handful of guys that do comp hunt. I know there's a handful of guys that are just training. I know there's a handful of guys in every kind of stage of the sport, one way or the other, right? So, and I'm sure I've got the audience, reached out for quite a long ways here, because I think a lot of my content is applicable to not only coonhounds but other dog breeds. But that's another thing that I want to kind of address here, and it's a big thing that I want to address here, is if we're coming in and we're watching specifically coonhound based training videos, we're probably not going to get the best results out of dogs that are not coonhounds. We could probably get some good results because a lot of the stuff is solid and it's just based in, dog training in general. But some of the stuff is very hound specific and very hound drive specific training techniques, and different mentalities that coonhounds have, and the workarounds for that. And that's one thing that I kind of wanted to touch on here too, is that the coonhounds, they have a different mentality. They just do. And they're different than other dogs. It's so clear cut um, between hounds and a different dog. Yeah, they're dogs, but the mentality that we get with these dogs, and the intelligence level that we get with these dogs, and the just different things, right? They're very, very, very much so independent thinkers. They're not so dependent on people to help them think or help them function like 90% of the other dog breeds are. Coonhounds are very, very, very independent. They're just like, trying to boss around somebody that knows better than to be bossed around. And sometimes we can tease them into it, sometimes we can trick them into it, and sometimes they just do it because they want to and they don't care what you say. So there's a lot of that goes around in the coonhounds, and there's nothing wrong with that. In my book, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it makes them what they are. I think it's a very big, key, important thing in what they are. And some dogs, man, just like I've heard, all dogs are capable of it, right? They're capable of smelling, they're capable of tracking, but the whole idea behind a hound is they smell it and then they know, they have the ability and the intelligence to know at the other end of this there's something there, right? And they have the intelligence to know where that thing goes. They know, they go in a hole, they go in a tree, they, whatever. They have that ability to, I don't even know what you would actually call that, but they have the ability to foresee things, right? They smell it and then they can foresee what's at the end of that, and that's what drives them. They're intelligent to that level, and a lot of them are intelligence to the level that they never forget, right? So we always heard about elephants never forget. Elephants never forget. Well, coonhounds never forget either. And if we get something that happens to a dog, it's on that dog's own ability and its brain to determine whether or not it's worth the risk to go through that again. And once the dog decides against going through something again, you can almost bet you're gonna scrape teeth, you're gonna pull nails to get that dog to do something again that it's decided that it's not going to. And it's almost like they know it. They know what you're wanting from them, and they know better than to give it, right? So it's kind of like that whole thing that we get into in the coonhound mentality of things. And because of that, I have no guarantee that anything on my channel is going to work for somebody 100%, because it's not only based on the psychology of dogs, it's not only based on, coonhound derived training methods. It's not based on any of that, because it's based on a dog being different than other dogs, because we have a wide variety of that. And it's also based on the experience that that dog has with the person. It's based on the experience that the dog has in general with people, with animals, with woods, with whatever. And we can hit a roadblock that is going to be very hard to overcome if we have dogs that have had bad taste put in their mouth. And I've said this a lot on the channel, and that's what I was just kind of talking about. They never kind of forget. So once they get a bad taste in their mouth for something, you can almost guarantee it's going to be like pulling teeth to get that dog to do that again, or to get that dog to do something. So we have to think outside the box. And out of all the dogs that I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of breeds of different dogs, not just hounds, the hounds are the only ones that have this ability to be that way. There are some smarter breeds out there that will be that intelligent to know better than to do something again that they had a bad experience with. But for the most part, their main drive is to please you. And hounds have a huge drive to please their owners, but they also have a lot of sense. It's almost like they have common sense enough to know better. And that's why I preach, in the training, is we have to always have good positive associations to back things up. So it's just kind of like, let's take, for example, us from the last video, us putting a dog up for milling. we'll never work through that if we don't hit the other side of the ticket, right? And that's kind of it. And I've talked about it in other videos. The circle of life and that whole idea is we have to have a complete process. We have to make it a full circle to get them to understand properly. So if we just have a dog and we're putting it up for milling and putting it up for milling, and we're just going through this forever and for extended periods of time, and nights after nights after nights after nights, we're just having to put a dog up for milling, and it just never gets to come up with a tree, or it never breaks that fold to where it's going to take off and go get it done. That means that we have to adjust, and we need to do something a little bit different, because we have to allow the dog to see the other side of the ticket and see the good positive side. And a lot of the training that I say to do is do the good first. Try to get the positive stuff out of the way before we start introducing the negative stuff, because they have an option then, right? If we're only getting bad, if we're only getting negative, and we've never gotten good, we don't know how to choose good. But if we've gotten the good and then we start introducing negatives, then the dog has an option to pick good, right? So that's the whole point, and that's kind of the whole idea there behind a lot of the stuff is a positive reinforcement. And one example that I'll give is, okay, so like we'll take back to the Cash Man video. When I'm working him on that cage, he is not real up on the tree. He's far back. You can see the coon lunged at him and he ran off, and he's coming back, but he's not giving it up, and he's still pushing in. And the more that I positively reinforce him, the more that I pet him up, the more confident that he got, and the more he was wanting to get up on the tree and stay on that tree. And that was what I was wanting out of him. I don't want you way back over there, not coming over by the tree. I don't want you hanging off way away from the cage. I don't want you running off when this coon lunges at you. I want you planted on this tree. And it took me a while to work him into that. But it's like once I got him there, that's what I got out of him after that, you know. And it's kind of like there's little things like that that we have to watch out for, that we need to make sure that we're pushing our dog that extra little much, giving our dog that extra bit of confidence to go the extra little bit of mile of making it from 2 feet back from the tree to being on the tree. You know, there's a lot of little things like that that go a long, long ways. And that just goes for everything, right? Just going the extra mile to get things done the right way, and get things looking a lot better than if we were to be hands off and not care so much what a dog looks like when it's doing something. Because to me, in that specific moment, what I seen with him being so far off the tree is I have a potential for slicks. I have a potential for a dog to tree and not be on a tree, right? I have a potential there for that. So I need to fix this and get him up to a tree and get him locked in and get him petted up good for him to understand that, you know, you need to be on the tree for this to be a good thing, right? So there's kind of little stuff like that, little tidbits, things like that. And I had the tidbits video. Let me know what you guys thought about the tidbits video, because there is a lot of different little things that aren't really warranted to do a whole entire video on. And that's when I get into a spot to where I have all these ideas floating around in my head, but they're not the biggest ideas, and they don't cohesively flow together in one video. So we'll just do a hodgepodge video and just throw a bunch of little stuff in there and talk about a bunch of little stuff in a longer video. And I know that you guys prefer the longer videos because that's what does well on my channel, is the longer videos. Around 10 minutes plus are videos that perform well on the channel. And I love it, right? I love it. It takes a long time to talk about and explain a lot of this stuff. And we can not mince words and still take a long time. We can be really short-winded and really short-minded about what we have to say and just throw it out there, and some people get it, some people don't. But having to sit down and explain what to do and explain why to do it takes a little bit of time, right? And I don't want to just throw things at you guys and be like, do this, and then you guys don't know why I think that that's what needs to be done. And it just kind of lends its hand, and it gives people a better idea to sift through whether they buy into it or not buy into it. And so far, a lot of people like what I put out. A lot of people like the information that I have. And just to be flat out honest with you guys, when I sat down that first time and I made that very first training a coonhound solo video, um, I didn't know that I was going to end up where I'm at now. I had no idea. And just to be honest, I didn't even realize how much information that I knew, right? I didn't know how much information that I've collected over the years. I didn't really understand it. And I didn't understand how, valuable that would be to some guys to share that information until I actually sat down and started in doing it. And I'm not a know-it-all when it comes down to this stuff. I'm not the final say on none of this stuff. And it's up to you guys to do your due diligence to find somebody that makes sense for you guys to watch and makes sense for you guys to listen to, and find somebody that makes sense for you guys. And one thing that I've been kind of pondering on for a very long time is, yeah, we have the whole training side and we have the whole action side of coon dog training, but we also have the thinking side, right? A lot of this stuff is thinking. It's thinking, thinking, thinking. And if we get a dog that puts us in a little pickle and we go, I need to get out of this pickle so I can get moved on, I may sit in the house for a week and just think and think and think and mull it over and try to figure out a way to get around that and circumvent it. We have the baseline kind of idea of what we need to progress through from start to finish, but we also have to have the workarounds, right? And getting the workarounds is where the detailed training comes in, because we can know exactly what a dog is supposed to be doing, and then we can go try to get a dog to do that, and the dog doesn't do it, and we go, okay, this dog's junk, let's get a new dog. Or, yeah, I don't care for this dog because he ain't doing something right. Well, if we have this workarounds for some of this stuff, we can take a dog that doesn't look so hot and we can make it look a lot better, and we can get it to do a lot better. One thing that I do want to say, and I do want to make very clear on this channel, is that all this stuff is easy to say. That I will tell you guys that all this stuff is easy to say, and it's a lot harder to put into action. It takes a lot more diligence. It takes a lot more determination than what you think it does, and it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, a long time, and some dogs take long, man. They take so long to get right, and then it just takes combinations of things. And each dog has a combination, and all you gotta do is put that combo in, and the dog's unlocked. And that's kind of what the whole point of training is unlocking these dogs' potential, unlocking their mind, unlocking them to be able to do this foreseeing thing and be able to understand the world outside of being a dog, which is so odd that hounds in general, they have a good idea, right? And I've heard it a lot lately, is this sixth sense that dogs have. They just kind of know where to go. They kind of know what to look for. They're learning, right? They've learned. So some dogs, you can put them in an environment and they don't learn a lick. Other dogs, you put them in an environment and they'll know everything up and down, left and right in that thing. And those are the dogs that turn out to be like really good dogs for the most part, is because they have a lot of sense outside of themselves. And one thing that I've always said on the channel is these people smart dogs, these dogs that like learning about people, those are the dogs that are going to figure you out and start trying to train you, right? They go, oh, well, he's training me. He's doing these things. I'm going to try to do it back to him. And they will. Dogs will absolutely train people, especially coon dogs. You won't even know it. You won't even realize it until it's too late. Oh, well, I'm going to go up here 30 yards and I'm just going to wait. Because I know if I go up here 30 yards and wait, he's going to show up. And the dog will go, well, I'll just go up here 30 yards and wait. He'll show up soon enough. I'll go over here and mill. He'll show up soon enough. I'll go over here and go back to the truck. He'll go back to the truck, right? they'll lead you around without you kind of knowing about it and without you kind of understanding it. So we have to be very careful in that sense. We have to be very stern on our lines. And it's almost like once you create a line in the sand, you cannot let it be crossed. And if we cross it, so this is going to bring me to my next little part here, is going to be exceptions to the rule. There is always an exception to the rule. There is always an exception to when we can break a rule. There's always going to be that. And it's up to us to decide when the con and pros weigh out in our favor. And it might be a con, but it might be a bigger pro at the same time because we have dual actions. We have dual reasons to do things. We have multiple purposes for multiple different reasons. And just like I was saying in my last video, let's talk about, leashing a dog when it comes back. Okay, so number one, we have to develop a positive association with the leash for our dog to be able to leash up without an issue. But we also, if we have a dog that wants to keep coming back, we can start introducing a negative association with the leash to where they won't want to come back so much, right? We can do that. So we have to kind of walk a thin line, and we can use these things that aren't so good to get a result, to get a dog moved past it, right? So we're taking collateral damage in a lot of this stuff. So if we have a dog that leashes up really, really, really good, and we just want it to hunt farther, or it keeps coming back and checking in, and when we start leashing it up, what's going to happen is the dog's going to start not wanting to get leashed, right? So we might have a little bit harder time getting him leashed overall, but he's not going to want to come back to the leash. So we're creating and using negatives to reinforce positives overall. So like to me, I think that a dog going and getting hunted and getting out there and not coming back and checking in every 5 seconds is a way better pro than a dog that is a little bit hard to get leashed. Do you see what I'm saying? So we can weigh our pros and our cons for whatever reason. Because what we'll never do is we'll never be able to attain certain things if we're not willing to sacrifice a little bit, right? So we have to be able to sacrifice a little bit of something to further on something else. And that is just kind of how the game's played. And being in balance is another thing that I talk about a lot, is having a balance when we're training. So we need a good balance when we're doing this, especially if we're training in these ways. If we're training and looking at it and approaching things this way, we need a good balance of how we play out, because we don't need a lopsided dog, right? We don't need a dog that absolutely will not go get leashed, but it will run 3 miles deep. Like that's a bad combination, right? So we need to find a good middle ground, one that's acceptable for us, and we need to look at and see good times. Like, okay, it's acceptable for him to be out there for 15, 20 minutes and then come back, right? It's not acceptable for him to be out there 3 minutes and come back, right? So we have a line to be drawn, things to be considered, and our own perspective and our own thoughts and wants come into this majorly, and it plays a huge role. But you guys, this is going to wrap up today's episode of Talking Dogs Podcast. I really greatly appreciate you guys coming in here and checking out the content. I really greatly appreciate each and every one of y'all who has come in and subscribed to the channel. And I appreciate all the comments on my last video. That was just awesome with you guys. That was a huge turnout for that video. Y'all keep them treed.